That's why Joe Biden want to sit with me, okay? 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 For those of you that are unaware, there is a growing group of white people in this country who have accepted the ridiculous notion that being born white automatically registers them as a social offender. They try to right the sin of their complexion by running around social media yelling at other white people for stating their opinions. For example, if white man A comments on Facebook, "I don't think players should kneel for the national anthem," then guilty white man B swoops in like, "You can't comment, you don't have melanin in your skin." Really? This is a trend that needs to die. Why on earth wouldn't a white person be able to give his opinion just because he doesn't look like the subject of the story? To all of you white people that are out there pretending to be so down with the cause that you're willing to throw hate to your own race, please stop. It is the cheapest form of altruism ever. It's you trying to use black people as a prop to feel morally superior to your peers.
What is your take on the reaction that we've seen nationwide to Ahmaud Arbery's case?
It is just standard, two elements. Standard, the media being propagandists and trying to manufacture and sell a story in a way that it does not need to be sold. And standard, the black community taking the bait. You know, I mean, it is hook, line, and sinker every single time with the black community. There's never a pause to collect your thoughts. There's never a pause to wait. Just simply wait a couple of seconds for more information to come out. It's a little bit of brainwashing because there are no black people living today that have lived through times where, you know, black Americans are getting lynched, can't walk down the street and, you know, can't step out of their homes. And yet black Americans today are using rhetoric that people that lived through those times didn't use. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandfather, who actually dealt with the real Ku Klux Klan, would not be like, "We literally can't step out of our homes, you know, we're being lynched." So it's interesting to see how easy it is to create a mind. And because this narrative, right, this 1913 narrative, this 1895 narrative has become so part and parcel of the mainstream narrative, black Americans actually believe it's going on. Like they actually think it's a plausible situation that happens every time, and it defies reality, it defies common sense, it defies statistics, and for me, you know, it's sad. It's just sad to see it happen over and over and over again.
Please cut the fucking shit, okay? Okay? Okay?
The other thing here was these protests weren't just about George Floyd. They were about a sea of issues, and this was like the culmination point. The point was, regardless of who he is, his life mattered. His life was worthy of protection. In some ways, I am actually interested to think about what it means for us to fight for someone who wasn't perfect. Because very often we only fight for the middle class, cisgendered, straight, heterosexual guy who's going to college on Monday like Mike Brown, or we have to put Trayvon on a horse to say that he didn't need to die. And it's like, that's not the point. You shouldn't have to be perfect to
Well, I
live.
think it is the point because, and this is my problem with our community, is that black Americans are hypocrites. We are hypocrites, right? So you say, oh, well, it's not the point. Well, where were we on the issues of kids getting shot, actual innocent black victims being killed, every weekend, every day in the inner cities? Nobody cares. If you want to give somebody a funeral and you want to have it be 5 days long, why not do that for Tyshawn Lee, the 9-year-old kid who was wearing his school uniform and playing basketball when he was lured into an alley by, an older black man who then shot him point blank in the head 2 times because he didn't like his dad. And it was like, it was gang violence. Nobody cared. So this whole idea of there's this uprising because you care about black lives. Don't pretend you care about black lives. You like the political expediency of caring about a black life, if and only when they die at the hands of a police officer, or die at the hands rather of a white person, because it doesn't even have to be a police officer as long as it's a white person. But we kill ourselves faster and nobody cares.
Was there ever a point in history where white privilege did exist?
Yeah, I suppose when we lived in a country where if you were black, you were not allowed to go into certain places.
When did it end?
When it stopped being systemic, when there stopped being laws in place that stopped me as a black person doing what you're able to do as a white man. If you ask me whether or not I believe in economic privilege, I would tell you yes. If you ask me whether or not I think that somebody born into a family of billionaires will be afforded more privileges in life than somebody that is born in the projects of Chicago, I would say yes, because economic privilege in this country does exist. But there is no law in place that is stopping a person because of the color of their skin from gaining that economic privilege, which is why why I do not believe that white privilege, which is based upon the color of your skin, exists. Well, you know how liberals are. They are the most accepting people in the entire world, unless you think differently than them.
Who cares who doesn't? Democrats are Americans. Democrats are in America, so therefore you just admitted that there has been disadvantage by two black people by Democrats who are Americans.
So the first thing is that you have to understand, when we walk in here, we're booed, we're shouted at. We've got girl fake reading a book, right, standing over here, yelling at us, okay? So, yeah, right. So you have to understand, it's impossible to have a conversation when all we're here is to talk about our ideas, and people are so triggered by the idea that we don't agree with them. They don't want to have a discussion. Nobody has asked me my background. I come from the exact same background as you. What you're seeing happening today, obviously we have some black people that are just shouting in the back. We have some black people that are sitting in the front quietly, that are chanting USA and having a normal conversation. I love that, because what I say every single time, and you may have seen me on the news, is that what is happening right now in the black community, you're going to hear it in this room first, there is an ideological civil war happening. Black people that are focused on their past and shouting about slavery, and black people that are focused on their futures, okay? That's really what it comes down to, okay? I can guarantee you what you're seeing happening is victim mentality versus victor mentality. And
That's
I promise
great,
you,
by the way.
the people here are going to win.
I love that.
And there's no doubt in my mind. I can tell you right now who is going to be better off. When we look 20 years, when we look at the faces in this room, who is going to be better off are the girls that are sitting right here and across this room, because they don't have your mentality. Victim mentality is not cool. I don't know why people like being oppressed. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I love oppression. We're oppressed. 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did, and it's embarrassing that you utilize their history. You utilize their history, and you come in here with more emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. More emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. It's embarrassing. You're not living through anything right now. You're overly privileged Americans.
Fatality.
Get him a body bag! Yeah! All right.
What always amazes me is that we're considered so controversial when we come onto these liberal campuses, because we're saying what? I'm sitting up here saying that I believe in the black community, that they can do it without government handouts, that they are not victims, and they're boycotting me. It's amazing what the left has really done a number on the consciousness of black people, where you can sit in a room and say, you're amazing, you can do it without government handouts, you can start your own businesses, you're going to be great, and they say, no, I want to remain a victim. I genuinely don't understand it. It makes no sense. Why would you want to be a victim? We're up here advocating for less government. We're saying that they're giving you handouts and they're pretending to help, but they're actually hurting you in the long run, and we're providing you with empirical data to take a look at. It's like, wake up, man.
I just have to say that I object strenuously to your use of the word hilarious. To me, this feels a lot like your reaction to being named in one of these manifestos. Now, you're, of course, not responsible for the words of somebody writing that document. But I do think that laughing at it is a real problem, because these are real families that are impacted by this violence.
Every 4 years, you bring up race, and you knew exactly what I meant when I said hilarious, and you just tried to do live what the media does all the time to Republicans, to our president, and to conservatives, which you tried to manipulate what I said to fit your narrative, okay? I was not referring to the subject matter that is hilarious. I said it's hilarious that we are sitting in this room today, and I've got 2 doctors and a missus, and nobody can give us real numbers that we can respond to so we can assess how big of a threat this is, because you know that it is not as big of a threat as you are trying to make it out to be, so that you can manipulate. And the audacity of you to bring up the Christchurch shooting manifesto and make it seem as if I laughed at people that were slaughtered by a homicidal maniac is, in my opinion, absolutely despicable. And I think that we should be above that. To try to assign reality or any meaning to a homicidal maniac writing a manifesto, which, by the way, let the record show, also stated Spyro the Dragon, the child's cartoon, as a source of inspiration. He also cited Nelson Mandela as a source of information. I don't think that Nelson Mandela has inspired mosque shootings. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong. You would rather assign meaning to a homicidal maniac than to actually address the things that I said today that are actually harming black America. Number 1, father absence. Number 2, the education system and the illiteracy rate. Illegal immigration ranks high, abortion ranks high, white supremacy and white nationalism, if I had to make a list again of 100 things, would not be on it. This hearing, in my opinion, is a farce, and it is ironic that you're sitting here and you're having 3 Caucasian people testify and tell you what their expertise are. Do I know what my expertise are?
Black in America. I've been Black in America my whole life, all 30 years, and I can tell you that you guys have done the exact same thing every 4 years ahead of an election cycle, and it needs to stop.
You know, I would say what the left has realized is that race is sort of represents an Achilles heel in America, meaning that they know that if they stroke this one issue because they've done such a good job of programming people to believe that it's still ever present, and it's not, it's just not, that they can inspire riots, they can inspire protests, and they can inspire upheaval, and that's what they want ahead of an election cycle. Somehow they're pinning all of this stuff in the back of conservatives. It makes no sense, you know, and you have corporations that are capitulating to this ridiculous narrative, and it just becomes a way for them to seize control and can seize power by reducing Black Americans to emotional toddlers. And that's what we're seeing. You know, we're seeing a toddler response to things, not waiting to get more information, just saying Black versus white. And it's remarkable if you look at the actual headlines, right? We know that you're more likely as a white person to be killed by a Black person the other way around. But when a white person is killed by a Black person, the headline doesn't mention race. Right? It's 5-year-old got shot by a man in Chicago. But the second that they can look at the races and say, oh, look, a white person did something bad to a Black person, the media just completely gets in on that and just race. And again, I think it's just a tool of manipulation, because if you can get somebody to react emotionally and not rationally, you can control them. They're yours.
As a Black American, as an American, period, we couldn't be living in a more privileged time. And yet CNN is trying to sell me my own oppression. So I shoot this video and I basically say, am I the only person that, you know, relies on their own experience to dictate what might be going on in the world? Am I the only person that can get up in the morning and go to Starbucks and a white person makes me my latte and they say, have a nice day. And then I go to the gym and I've got a Spanish guy who hands me my towel and he says, have a nice day. I'm living in a pretty okay place until I turn on CNN.
Moment of silence, taking a knee for another unarmed Black woman, Cardi B, who was murdered by Candace Owens.